All right, next in math today, we're going to be focusing on lines that are in standard form. You might remember from our last lesson, all of the equations for our lines started with y equals, and these equations do not start with y equals. So whenever we encounter a line that does not start with y equals, what we're going to have to do is some algebra in order to get the y by itself. So what I'm going to think about right here, I've got 2x plus y. I want to focus my attention on that y. And then I'm looking at the x that's on the same side of the equation, and I want to get rid of that x. So that is currently a positive 2x. If there's not a sign in front of it, then it's positive. So to get y by itself, I need to do the opposite of plus 2x, which is to subtract 2x. All right, that will clear out the 2x, and I can bring down my y, and I can bring down my equals, and I have 4 minus 2x. Now, usually when we write that equation, we usually write the x first. If you change the order, it's not going to be wrong, but it's kind of a good habit to get into is to write the x first. So I'm going to write the negative 2x first, and then that is a positive 4, so I'm going to put plus 4 after it. And once the y is by itself, then you have converted your equation into slope-intercept form, which is the form that we need to use in order to find the slope and the y-intercept and to draw the graph like we did in class the other day. So this is going to be your answer right here. All right, we're going to do that again, but this next one is a little bit more complicated. All right, once again, my goal is going to be to try to get the y by itself. So I'm going to focus in on that y because that's what I'm trying to get by itself. And if I look next to it, there's a 6x, and that is a positive 6x. So just like the last problem, in order to get the y by itself, I'm going to need to do the opposite of plus 6x, which is to subtract 6x. And remember, whatever we do to one side of the equation, we're going to go do that same thing to the other side of the equation. So I'm going to go subtract 6x on the other side. That will zero out those 6x's. Then I can bring down the 9y, and I can bring down the equals. And now I have a negative 63 and a negative 6x. And again, it's okay to reverse the order, but we're going to try to get in the habit of putting the x first. So negative 6x minus 63. Now, the last problem, when I got to this point right here, I was done. But remember that my goal is to get y by itself. So that means I need to get rid of that 9 that is in front of the y. So remember, when I have two things touching each other, that means multiplication. So the opposite of multiply is to divide. So in order to get y by itself, I need to divide by 9. Okay. Now here's where it gets kind of strange. On the other side of the equation, I need to do that to both terms. I need to divide both of them by 9. So that will clear out this 9, so I have just a y left over and an equals. And you're going to see that this time I ended up with two fractions. Both of those fractions need to be simplified in your calculator. So it will take a minute, but you're going to go ahead and put negative 6 over 9 in your calculator. That should reduce to negative 2 over 3. And then negative 63 divided by 9, when you put that into the calculator, that will reduce to negative 7 because 63 divided by 9 is 7. And now your answer is completed. That is your y equals equation. All right, up next, you are going to have some multiple choice questions. So for this one, it asks us which of the following graphs represents the equation 4x minus 2y equals 24. And in order to answer that, we are going to have to solve that equation for y. Okay, so just like we did in the previous two examples, we're going to do some work here to get y by itself. So the first thing I'm noticing is that it's attached to that positive 4x. So the first step is going to be to subtract 4x on both sides of the equation. So that will get rid of our 4x, and I'll bring down my negative 2y. And again, I'm going to put the x first, so negative 4x, and then my plus 24 will come after that. And now to get y by itself, I have one more step to do, and that is to divide by negative 2. And I'm going to do that to both terms on the other side of the equation. So negative 2 divided by negative 2 is 1. So I have just the y left over on the left side. And negative 4 divided by negative 2 is 2. And then 24 divided by negative 2 is negative 12. So now that my equation is solved for y, now I'm going to be able to figure out which graph matches it. Okay, so if you remember from our last lesson, this number in front of x is the slope. So that means that we have a rise over run that is 2 over 1. And this number at the end of the equation is our y-intercept. So what I want to do is I'm going to start out by figuring out which of these graphs has a y-intercept of negative 12. Well, if I look at A, it does cross the y-axis at negative 12. So A could be our answer. But B crosses the y-axis at 24. So that could not be the answer. C crosses the y-axis at negative 12, so that's possible. And D also crosses the y-axis at negative 12. So all three of those are possible to be the answer. So now I need to look at which one has a slope of 2 over 1. So if I imagine starting at that y-intercept, I need to go up 2 spaces and right 1 space. A does that. C does not. D does not. So the answer is going to be A. All right, and number 8 is a similar question but backwards. So here we have 4 equations, and we have to figure out which one matches the graph. So what I'm going to do is to go through here and start solving these equations to get y by itself. It's going to take a minute to do that, but as we do that, we'll see which one is able to match the graph. So I'm going to start with A. A is negative x plus 9y equals 9. So in order to get y by itself, I need to get rid of that negative x. So the opposite of minus x is plus x. I will add x to both sides. And I have 9y equals x plus 9. And then I'm going to divide everything by 9. And I will get y is equal to, now this one is something that hasn't happened yet. Remember, if there's not a number in front of x, that it's understood to be 1. So that's 1/9 x plus 9 divided by 9 is 1. And then I can check my y-intercept of 1 is right here, but my slope is 1 over 9, which would mean I would need to go up 1 and over 9. That is not a match. So A is not the right equation. If I do B, 9x plus y equals 9. For this one, I just need to subtract 9x. And this one means I have a y-intercept of 9. That is not a match for this graph. So it's also not going to be B. C, I have x plus y is equal to 9. Subtract x on both sides, I get y equals negative x plus 9. Once again, that's a y-intercept of 9. That does not match this graph. This graph has a y-intercept of 1. So by process of elimination now, I do know that it's D, but also if I were to solve that equation, I would first subtract x and get negative x plus 9, and then divide by 9, and I would get negative 1 over 9x plus 1. And that does match because I have a y-intercept of 1 and a slope of negative 1 over 9. All right, so with that, I want you to go over to Delta Math and do the assignment there. I want to encourage you to help each other out, talk to your classmates if you need some assistance. And if you finish early, then I do want you also to get into Delta Math and work on any old assignments that you are not completed and finish them. Send me an email if you finish up something that is past due.